I chose a historical fiction book called Fever 1793 to share with you all today by author Lori Halsey Anderson. This is a historical fiction book about the yellow fever of 1793. The thing that caught my interest right away was the descriptive, interesting writing style of the author. I didn't know if I was going to enjoy a historical fiction, but I thought she did such a great job catching my interest right away that I wanted to read just a little bit from the beginning of the book, see if it catches your interest as well. It starts out, Chapter 1, August 16th, 1793. The city of Philadelphia is perhaps one of the wonders of the world. Lord Adam Gordon, Journal Entry, 1765. Each of the chapters starts with a heading like this, with a date, so you can kind of keep track of how the events are coming along in the time frame in which they're happening. And then the quote usually has something to do with that theme of that chapter. I awoke to the sound of a mosquito whining in my left ear and my mother screeching in the right. Rouse yourself this instant. Mother snapped open the shutters and heat poured into our bedchamber. The room above our coffee house was not large. The 2 beds, a washstand, and a wooden trunk with frayed leather straps nearly filled it. It seemed even smaller with Mother storming around. Get out of bed, Matilda, she continued. You're sleeping the day away. She shook my shoulder. Polly's late, and there's work to be done. The noisy mosquito darted between us. I started to sweat under the thin blanket. It was going to be another hot August day. Another long, hot August day. Another long, hot, boring, wretched August day. I can't tell who is lazier, Polly or you, Mother muttered as she stalked out of the room. When I was a girl, we were up before the sun. Her voice droned on and on as she clattered down the stairs. I groaned. Mother had been a perfect girl. Her family was wealthy then, but that didn't stop her from stitching entire quilts before breakfast or spinning miles of wool before tea. It was the war, she liked to remind me. Children did what they were asked of then. And she never complained. Oh, no, never. Good children were seen and not heard. How utterly unlike me. I yawned and stretched and then snuggled back into my pillow. A few more minutes' rest, that's what I needed. I'd float back to sleep, drifting like Blanchard's giant yellow balloon. I could just see it, the winter's day, the crowds on the rooftops, the balloon tugging at its ropes. I held my breath. Would the ropes break? The devilish mosquito attacked, sinking its needle into my forehead. Ouch! I leapt from the bed and thunk! Cracked my head on the sloped ceiling. The ceiling was lower than it used to be. Either that or I had grown another inch overnight. I sat back down wide awake now, my noggin sporting 2 lumps, one from the ceiling and one from the mosquito. No balloon trips for me. I thought, oh my goodness, Maddie is such a character. This is going to be such an interesting, fun book to read, and it was. Later in the story, as the story goes on, Maddie gets sick. She's being trying to escape the city out to the fresh country air with her grandfather, and she ends up getting sick. Both of them actually end up getting sick. Chapter 15, September 22nd, 1793. Wives were deserted by husbands and children by parents. The chamber of diseases were deserted and the sick left to die of negligence. None could be found to remove the lifeless bodies. Their remains suffered to decay by piecemeal, filled the air with deadly exhalations, and added tenfold to the devastation. Charles Brockden Brown, Arthur Mervyn, or Memoirs of the Year 1793. And that's how it starts out, telling us about Maddie, and she goes to this hospital, and the doctors that come in and try to help her, and I think some of the language is very, as you already saw, appropriate for the time, but I think right here, the nurse is trying to feed her some food. The doctor said that she should eat, that would be good for her. And the nurse gives her a bowl of rice and boiled prunes. And she said, I think she's from England, and she says, "It's got a wee bit of sugar on it," she whispered. "Young ladies need something sweet, and when you're done with that, you'll have a good wash and move to your new bed over in the barn." I thought that was cute. Um, some ways that this book fills the criteria is through the setting, with like how they describe the house, the coffee house, the fact that the coffee house is her mom's place of business. That was all the rage back in the 1790s, and it was deemed an appropriate sort of business for a widow to run, which her mom was a widow. Um, so back in those days, women didn't generally work probably, except maybe on the farm, but they didn't have jobs so much usually. And but being a widow, she needed to provide for her family. So when her husband fell off a ladder just a couple months after building the coffee house and their home, which was above the coffee house, and he broke his neck and died, she needed to run it on her own. We also see authentic values, which is another criteria of hard work and the mom working and the daughter having to help. Um, and also servant girls, all of those things are authentic parts of the setting and the details in the story. The relationships are quite developed. That's another detail criteria with between Maddie and her mom, Maddie and the servant girl Polly, and Maddie and their cook Eliza, and some interesting things that happen and how Eliza helps Maddie and when she's all alone, doesn't know where her mom is, doesn't know if her mom's alive. And she helps with the Free African Society, I think it's called. The neat thing about this book is in the very back, it tells you about all the appendix. It tells you about all the things that are true that go into this fiction story, the different famous real people that were affected by this epidemic, and the different doctors, how they worked, the balloon that I talked about, the Free African Society, and they talk about the market, the fear and panic that this fever caused, and yellow fever today. So I hope you give this book a try. Again, it's Fever 1793. It's a fabulous book. I think you'll enjoy it.